Hello, I have a project here that I'm going to show how to put on GitHub. This is how you can put any Unreal or Unity or any project really on GitHub. And I figured I would make this into a video because a lot of videos kind of overcomplicate this thing that you can do in a couple of minutes. And it's really not as overwhelming as a lot of people think it is. I think the main issue is that there's a lot of little small things that you can do wrong that can muddy it up a little bit. But I've seen just about everything that can go wrong with this. So I'm going to try to put all of that into this video. The things of what not to do and what to do and what not. But we'll start with the basics. So I'm going to put this project on GitHub. The benefits of why I'm GitHub's #1 fan and why I super recommend it to anybody working on Unreal or Unity is #1, ease of access to your project. You can transfer it to an indefinite amount of places wherever you're working with the click of a few buttons. All you have to do is clone a project. So whether you're working at home, in class, and whatnot, once you clone the project, from that point on, all you're doing is transferring the changes that you make to that project. So versus if you're using like a Google Drive and you're zipping up your entire project every single time, the bigger your project gets, you know, that's going to just become unfeasible at some point. Whether it's during your time at EMU or beyond, you're going to be working on big projects at some point. So this is just a good thing to know. You're not going to be zipping up, 500 megabytes or into the gigabytes projects. Secondly, having a safe backup for your project is, especially when you're working with Unity, where files get corrupted all the time, or Unreal, where it just randomly deletes things. You're going to want to have a safe backup for your project. It's going to pay off 100% during your time working at game dev. And once you have your project in a repository safely online, then it's safe. It doesn't matter if your computer explodes. As long as it's online on GitHub, you will have that project. Versus putting it on a flash drive where you could lose it, it could get corrupted, it could get broken. Once again, it's just maybe it's too big for the flash drive, and so on. So having a safe backup for your project cannot be understated. And then finally, collaboration. You're just working on a team with other people. You will be doing that at some point. If everybody's a collaborator on a repo, then they can all work on a project together without having to like send a project back and forth and whatnot. So those are the 3 big advantages. Where should we start? I guess we'll start with, I have a project. I will say you probably want to do this early on because the bigger a project is, the harder it is to do that initial push. But I will go over how to push projects that are too big. But let's assume that the project is of a proper size to start. We want to make a repository. First, you want to get GitHub desktop. So if you don't have that, just search in Google for, what's going on? Okay. Download GitHub desktop. And it's very, very quick. If you're doing this on a class computer, you could do this every week when you come into class. Just click this download button, then double click it in the downloads folder, and GitHub desktop will open up. Do it in less than 20 seconds, right? Go to options and sign in if you're not signed in. And then we're ready to make a repository. So I recommend, you can just click new repository, but I recommend adding local repository, because this way it's going to tell us if you're trying to, like later on, let's say you want to have multiple repositories. If you ever try to make a repository in a file path where a repository already exists, it's not going to work. And then when you try to publish it to GitHub, you're not going to have your files. So when we do it this way, it's going to give us an error message that tells us there's no repository. And we want that error message because no repository is good. So I'm going to find where my project is. For me, it's Epic Goblin #2. So I'm just going to select that. If you don't know where your project is, go to Unity Hub and find your project here and just look at the file path down there, or right click it and click Show and Explore. It's going to tell you, it's going to take you to your project. If you don't even have your project in Unity Hub, then you just open your project and just like right click on any object and click show and explore and find the path from there. But I know where my projects is because I save them in very easy places. I know where my projects are. So I'm going to select folder, add repo. There's that beautiful error message that we want to see. This directory does not appear to be a Git repository. Would you like to create one here instead? Yes. Click on that blue link, create repo. Keep this name the same. That's just the simplest way. If you change this name, it's going to make a new folder that has nothing in it. Versus keeping the name the same, and this is where all our project files are. So if you do end up changing this name, you'll just have to like copy all of your project files into the new folder that it makes. Or you can just keep it the same. Then hit the initialize this repo with a README. A README is if you're working with other people, or maybe you just want to keep notes for yourself. It's going to create a README file. So if you say you want to show me your project and you want me to know some things about your project, you would put that in the README file. Make sure in the git ignore, this is a Unity project. I'm going to select Unity. So I ignore all of the unnecessary Unity files. If you're using Unreal, then you would select Unreal Engine there instead. They're right next to each other. Basically, Unity has a bunch of files, like temporary files in cache that you don't need. It's famously the library folder, which just is this massive folder that creates a bunch of files that you don't need, and it just ignores those. So if you don't do that, and your library folder is like gigabytes large, then you're gonna have to deal with that. So that's it. I'm gonna hit create repo, create repository. It's gonna load for like a second. Shouldn't take too long. That actually did take a while because this project is slightly large, but after that is done loading, just hit publish repo. Again, I would keep the name the same. If you are going to submit it or you want to share it with me via a link, then I would make it public and then hit publish. All right, so it just finished publishing. That's all set. It's on GitHub. So now to check that, I would right click on this current repository, then the title of your game up in this top left corner, right click it, view on GitHub, and then you should see your repository. So you should see all of these blue folders here. If you don't see the blue folders, then I'll show how to deal with that after I talk about cloning the project. So put a pin on that. If you don't see these blue folders, something went wrong. So we'll talk about that in a minute. So now the project is online. So if this computer explodes, somebody steals everything in my house, I have the project here. It's going to be saved no matter what. So now that it's on here, let's talk about how to transfer it to another device. Or first, let's say you're working on your project in class and you just upload it to GitHub, but now you want to make changes to your project and you want to update those changes onto GitHub. So now that this project is a repository, let's make a change. Let's make any kind of change. Let's say I want to make a new animation, call it dancing. So let's just say I made a dancing animation. Let's say I changed. Oh, I don't want to take time to open up like the tile map window and everything. And I changed the position of some coins. After I save, they're only going to show up after you save. You go to GitHub Desktop, you can see those changes appear in this change panel. It's kind of cool. You're seeing your changes in real time. So if you want to add those changes to your GitHub repository, first you have to commit them. Right now, they're only local changes. So before you make a commit, you have to give it a title. So I'm going to call it, I added some animations. And then I'm going to commit those. So really, you could do that every every 10, 15 minutes of working. And after you hit the commit button, hit the push button. There's two buttons, the blue commit and then the push to origin button. Then now if I go look, where did I have that? If I refresh, I can see the added animations changes are now online. So that's it. So now let's talk about if I wanted to share that project with another device. So I drove to school and now I'm on my class computer. I downloaded GitHub Desktop. I logged in. I want to clone the project to that device. So I'm going to go to File, Clone. And then I'm going to have to find the project here. I'm not going to see it. I need to sign in, sign out, and sign in really quickly. Now, if I go to File, Clone Repository, I should see Epic Goblin 2. And then I have to choose where I want to save it. So I already have this folder. It already exists because I'm on the same computer. So I'm going to make a new folder for this one. Epic Goblin 2.1. 2.1. Save it there. And clone. Hopefully, if you started early enough, this should take like a couple of seconds. But even for this project, which is fairly large, it takes just a few seconds. And then it's cloned. So every time I make a change to that project that I just cloned, I will see those changes here. And then I can press the commit button and then the push button. And then they would be online. They would go here. So now that I have the project on theoretically 2 different computers, all I have to do to get the updated version whenever I make a change is click 2 buttons. But let's say I make some changes while I'm at home. So let me make another couple of changes. Right here, save. Epic Goblin 2. Those were that's the one change I made. Moved coins. Commit and push. Now that I've cloned the project to my school computer, or wherever else you're going, the only thing I need to do to get those changes are, I don't have to clone it again. I only have to clone the project if the project doesn't already exist on that computer. So the school computers do wipe every week or something like that. So you will likely have to be cloning a lot. But if your project is already on a school computer, you don't have to clone it again. All you have to do is open up GitHub Desktop, go to that repo, and press pull. And then you'll get those changes. So really in life, like if you're working in 2 different locations, really all you're doing is committing and pushing, and then fetching and pulling. So that only feels like a lot is because I took the time to really explain everything in detail, but that really is just 4 buttons. So I hope it's apparent how much pressing 2 buttons is easier than using a flash drive and changing and uploading a Google Drive entire project time and time again. And also just having your entire project online at all times is a helpful thing. All right, so let's say you create a repository and your project is not in the repository for whatever reason. I'm going to show one solution that will pretty much always fix that because it's so simple. So I just deleted the repository that I just made. I'm going to make a new one, and I'm going to try to make it in such a way in which it doesn't work correctly. But I think if I just like rename that something crazy. I could already tell that it didn't work because that was so quick. So if I publish that repo, and then I view it, I see it only has these Git files, which means that it successfully made it a repository, but I see no blue folders. My project is not here. So if this happens to you for whatever reason, even if it's not what I just did, one thing that you can do An easy way is go back to GitHub desktop, right click on the name in the top left here, and then click show and explorer. This is where my repository is. So everything that I will see on GitHub is what is in this folder. So the simple solution is just to put my project in this folder. So Epic Goblin. So just make a new tab, find wherever your project is. In my case, I just made a new folder because I renamed the project to a new name, which made a new folder. But I can just see that my project is here. And copy and paste everything. I don't need all these white folders. I just need these yellow folders. I don't even need all these yellow folders, but I'm just going to use them all. Just make it simple. Copy and paste all the yellow folders into your Git repository. So that's the very, very simple way of doing it. So after you do that, it should show up in GitHub desktop, all the changes of you just copying and pasting all those files. So it should be a lot. Pasted entire project. As you remember, you have to name the commit and hit the blue button. I'm hoping that this is going to be too big of a commit so that I can show how to fix that. That took a little while, but when it finished, I just hit the push origin button. Well, it did end up successfully pushing. So now if I right click on the name and then view on GitHub, it's fixed. You can see the title of the commits are pasted entire project. See the blue folders, it's all there. All right, next I want to show what to happen if you try to push something that's too big. So I just added a bunch of random files to my project and tried to push it. It took so long to get this error message that it is now midnight, but I'm dedicated to finishing this video, but I'm very tired. So if you try to push something and it's over 100 megabytes or it's just too big, you might get this error message that's saying you disconnected after a while, or you might get an error message that says it's over 100 megabytes, so you have to use Git's LFS, the large file system. I do not recommend using that. I think that's just making it too complicated. So let's talk about how to split it up into little mini commits. And this is something, well, you might run into this problem if you're trying to make a repo in a project that you've been working on for a while, which I just recommend not doing in the first place. I think you should always make the repository as early as you can when you start working on the project. But I'll talk about how to fix that next. This is for if you just, for some reason, have not pushed or made a commit in a long time. So your project got really big, and now that you're trying to push, it's too large. You are not doomed. You do not have to give up your project being on GitHub. So I just made a commit with all these files. You can see them here. So normally you're in this changes tab. You just switch over to the history tab and you can see the commits that you made. Like this one is named big changes. It has this arrow here because I could not push it to my online repository. So right now it's only local. So it's only stored on this computer. It's not actually online, any of these changes, because it's too big. I get one of those error messages every time. So first step to do is to undo this commit. We want to get rid of it. So right click on it and press undo. Now all of that history is no longer here. All those big changes is, in my case, just random projects that I pasted into this game are now back here. You can see it's 24,000 changes, about 25,000 changes. And the next part is very easy. We're just going to split it up. So next to this 25,000 change files, just uncheck everything. Select something, scroll down about maybe 100 or 200. Shift click. So I have about 100 files selected. Right click on any of those files and then select include selected files. The main thing to make note of is that everything is unselected before you do this. That's only selecting, I guess, 240. So I'll just rename the commit, 240 changes, commit, press the blue button, push, and voila, those changes that I made are now online. So the key here is to just pretty much keep doing that. I recommend doing them in like batches of 200 or so. No way was that 240 again. I just selected 240 2 times in a row. And because I was being obnoxious, normally you're not going to have 25,000 changes. Only one. Oh, yeah. That's 210. And then you just keep doing that process until you get through all of the changes. So if you commit regularly, you're never going to have this problem because your commits will be small enough. But say like you make 1,000 changes, or you downloaded an asset pack that was really big. That happens a lot in Unreal. You would just do it like this, and you just download them piece by piece, and then once it's done, you're all good. So even if you change like 2,000 things, if you do it in batches of 200, you'll get it done in that case 10 batches. So it really doesn't take that long. Now in the other case of you're making a repo in a project that's too big so you can't publish it, you would just have to create an empty folder and then copy and paste, or probably cut and paste all of your project files into your repo and commit them piece by piece like that, which sucks. So I just recommend always creating the repo basically as soon as you start the project, or a few days after you start a project. So those really are the two main problems. The two main problems are if you don't see your folders in GitHub, or if it's too large to commit. But let's say that for whatever reason you want to delete your repository and start over. You just want to completely start over from scratch. You can't just make a new repo in the same folder. It's not going to work. You won't see your folders if you try to make a new repo. So if you want to delete a repository for any reason, I recommend the very first thing you do is go online in GitHub. So find your repository in GitHub desktop, right click, and then click view on GitHub. I'm going to delete this because I don't want this demo repo. Go to the settings, scroll all the way down on the first page of the settings, click delete this repository. Yes, I wanted to delete it. Yes, I understand. It's going to have you type in the name of the repo. I'm just going to copy paste it and then delete it from there. So now it's gone off GitHub. I would recommend doing that before you do anything else. And back in GitHub desktop, we can remove it. Before we remove it, let's show and explore. So right click, show and explore. These Git files are what is making it a Git repository. So we need to get rid of all those. If you try to make a repository in a folder where any of the children have any Git files, it's not going to work. So I'm just going to type Git. No items match my search. Maybe I successfully removed all the Git files already. So no, there's Git files right here. So clearly not all of them. So I don't know why it's not showing me all the Git files. And this is why GitHub is wacky sometimes. So I'm just gonna delete the ones that I can see, I guess. But I'm gonna hope that that's enough. And it's gone from here too. Lovely. So I'm gonna right click, remove. And now it's completely gone. All right, so that should, in theory, I mean, you never know, but I think that covers everything that could go wrong in GitHub. Quick recap of the process. You're going to class. You want to put your project on GitHub. You download GitHub Desktop. You sign in. You go to File, Add Local Repository. Find your project. Click the Add button. See a little error message. Click the blue Create a Repository Here link. Name it. Create a README file. Create an add Unity or an ignore Unity or ignore Unreal Engine, depending on what you're using. Don't change the name of the folder. create the repo there, and then hit the publish repository button. Now your project is online. That's it. Now you're going back home and you want to get your project there. You've never used GitHub before. So you download GitHub Desktop, you sign in, file, this time clone repository. You find your project here. Should be one of the only ones there if it's your first time. Choose somewhere you want to save it, somewhere that you can remember that's important. I always just save them to my pictures folder. I don't keep anything else in my pictures folder. Clone, wait a couple of seconds, do some work on your project. You'll see the changes pop up here. Name them, press the blue commit button, and then the push button. So now you're going back to school and your project is already, GitHub Desktop's already on it, your project's already on it. Sign in, go to your repository here, and then all you have to do is hit the pull and fetch button up here. Make some changes, name the changes, and the cycle just continues from there. So that's it for now. I think next I'm going to make a GitHub collaboration video. But that's it for now. Peace.